Day. I'm Peter. I'm one of the campus pastors here. Hello. Let's talk about, today I'm going to talk about the real consequences of a successful Valentine's Day, which is children. All right. So hopefully not for you guys, not yet, but one day maybe. Now I know raising children is some like future stuff for you. As far as I know, none of you have children, right? Like, I'm like maybe secret love children that I don't know about, but anyways, today I want to talk about relationships, the Bible, and the BS we all believe, right? What is the BS we believe about raising children? Because some of you want kids, and some of you really want kids, and some of you do not want kids. So we're all in different baskets, but the reality is that no matter if you have kids of your own or not, if we live in community, kids will be a part of your life. If you're a good friend with deep relationships with multiple people, at least one of you is going to have kids. And then you're going to be wondering, what do I do to help raise this child? Now, many of you already have experience with children, all right? And if you do, you probably know they love to ask one question: why? Why? And it's such a simple question. It's just one word, but it really is so difficult to answer. It's like, oh, why are you eating that? Oh, because I like it. Why? Because it's spicy. Why do you like spicy food? Because my parents gave spicy food to me when I was a kid. It's like, why did they give you spicy? I was like, because that's what they grew up with. Why? So, and then you start questioning your entire existence of like, have I just been brainwashed my entire life to like spicy food? Like somebody along my ancestral line was like, pain. Pain is good. But this question of why gets us down to these very foundational ideas. It breaks things down to the core thing, or at least it tries to. Let me see if I can down the decibels on this. I'm going to -20. All right. And I think it's a very good question for us to ask in more areas of our life, including raising children, because it gets us down to, why do I do this thing? Why am I choosing to raise my kid in this way? Why am I choosing to live my life in this way? One of probably the longest running conflicts in my marriage is the question of Santa. See, my wife grew up with Santa, believing in Santa. Her parents were very big about like doing all the Santa things. And I did not grow up with Santa. I didn't even know there were children who believed in Santa. And so when we were dating, it was like, okay, what would we teach our children? What would we do for our children? And I was like, no Santa, because why would you lie to your children? Such a bad precedence. That's right. No gifts, because we are not going to raise spoiled children. All right. Man, I got a big fan club over here. That's right. It's the no Santa crowd in the Santa crowd. But then my wife was like, no, but how will our children learn to be grateful? How will we teach them to say thank you if they never receive anything? And I was like, ooh, dang. So, when you ask why, you get down to, okay, why do we do this whole gift-giving thing, this whole Santa thing, this magical enchantment of a season versus non? Why? And once you've gotten to the core of the thing, as Christians, we have to ask ourselves one more question. Do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? All right? If I'm just giving gifts because, I don't know, to flaunt my money, to increase my reputation, do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? Or if I'm giving gifts so that I'm teaching my children gratitude, do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? It's the same thing, right? We're giving gifts, but when we get down to the why, then we can examine, is it like the world or is it like Jesus? Because it's not always easy to tell. But in order to raise your kids purposefully, you have to ask yourself these two questions. Why? And then, do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? Because God is the perfect parent. And Jesus says that if we've seen him, we've seen God the Father. That's in John 13. They're so linked together as one that Jesus says, I and the Father are one. I'm sure for many of us, someone has looked at us and said, oh, you look just like your mom. You look just like your dad, right? And we read Psalm 139, 13 through 18, because I wanted us to get an idea of what kind of parent God is, right? It says, he knit me together in my mother's womb. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, right? How precious to me are your thoughts? How vast is the sum of them? This is who God is. This is what kind of a father he is. You know, in 1 John, it also says, see what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. You see, I think for all of my life, I've always wanted a kid. My mom will say that when I was like a small child, she would ask me what I wanted to be. And I mean, I do remember going through like the firefighter phase and the police officer phase and the astronaut phase. But she says that the first career choice I ever said to her was that I wanted to be a dad. Now, obviously, I wasn't ready for a long time, but I wanted to be a dad. I loved my children before I even knew what they would be like, what they would look like. And I think that's a reflection of who God is. God loved you long before your parents even did. God loved my son before I did. He is the parent I want to be like. Because I think we want to be like our parents in all of their good ways. And when you have a good, perfect father, you want to be exactly like him. So we've been going through this series, right? We've talked about friendship, we've talked about marriage, dating. Now we're talking about biological and spiritual parenthood. And all of these things overlap one another, all right? Like who I am as a friend affects who I am as a boyfriend, then as a husband, which then affects who I am as a father. So there's going to be a lot of repetition going on because all of these things touch on each other. And what all these things have in common is that all of them are built on the foundation of who we are as followers of God. All right? All of them are built on a foundation of who we are as followers of God, and that we grow to look like him. We grow to become better friends, right? Better boyfriends, girlfriends, better husbands and wives, and better parents. Because when I grow as a disciple, I grow as a parent. When I grow as a disciple, I grow as a parent. And if I love my hypothetical future kids, then I'm motivated to follow Jesus even more closely because I know the sin, the flaws, the weaknesses in me, and I don't want my kids to take that on. And so my aim is not to raise a child as society tells me to, but to raise a child to be like God, loving, sacrificial, servant-hearted. So, just so we're all on the same page here, and so you have a face to a name in my story, slide, please, Ross. We need to talk about my son. This is William. Talk about him all the time. He is 10 months old. You see that left photo I took just this morning? That's his Valentine's Day outfit. He's an April Fool's baby. He was born on April 1st, 2024. And now when Emily was pregnant with him, Emily's my wife, when she was pregnant with him, we had to have a lot of talks to prepare for him. All right? To prepare for a child is a very daunting task. Like, take making a baby registry. All right, so that is the most confusing thing ever, where you sign up for like all these things that a baby is gonna need. Now, a baby registry is very different from a wedding registry, all right? Because I got married when I was almost 29, and so I'd been living on my own for over a decade. So I knew exactly what I needed to live, right? To cook, to clean, to fill up a house. I knew exactly what we needed to put on there. But a baby, I'd never had a baby before. And everyone's like, oh, don't put any clothes on there because people will give you clothes and they'll grow right out of it super fast. And I'm like, what does super fast mean? How fast does a baby grow? I don't know. I've never had a baby. It's like, oh, don't get too many burp cloths, but like get enough because they're gonna spit up. I'm like, how often do they spit up? I don't know. I've never had a baby. It's like, oh, get a crib and maybe a bassinet if you need one. I'm like, what? Are those different things? What? I don't know. I've never had a baby. So preparing for a baby is hard. And we had to have a lot of conversations to prepare for him. And one time I remember me and Emily were in the car. And so we're having this conversation about who should come to the hospital to see baby William when he's born. So obviously, we're like, of course, our families are going to be there, right? And then our close friends. And then who else? Should anyone else come? And so Emily asked me, like, yeah, are there other people you want to come? And I said, yeah, I think I want the guys who have been in my cores, in my peer teams in the past, all the Corfas that I've mentored. I think I want to invite all of them to come. She's like, how many? How many is that? I was like, I don't know, like 20? And I mean, that was a shock, like, to her. Because that's a lot of guys coming to visit in the hospital. A lot of guys who have probably rarely, if ever, held a baby. A lot of guys to see her in a very vulnerable state right after she's given birth to this living being, like, coming out of her. It's a lot. And so she was apprehensive, she was shocked, but I told her, all right, maybe they've never held a baby before, but then I want my baby to be the first one they hold. Because who's going to let a bunch of guys come visit them at the hospital right after giving birth? Who is going to let them hold a baby for the first time? Who's going to teach them what to say and what to do in a hospital when there's a newborn in there? It's like, why do we treat men like they don't know how to act around babies? Why do we keep them away from babies? Because, it's a self-perpetuating cycle. They'll never learn if we never let them. I remember the first time someone trusted me with their baby. We were at a wedding. I mean, I think Brandon has the picture. I mean, it is awkward. Like, I'm surprised I did not drop that baby. I'm like, it's all hands, basically. Just like, no arms, just hands. But you gotta learn. Someone's gotta take that first step and trust. And I married an amazing woman because she agreed and she let all those guys come see the baby. So many of you came and held William. Let's go to the next slide. I mean, he was born on April 1st, and April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, there were always people at the hospital coming to hold William. And the weeks after that, people just kept coming to visit and see the baby. Many of you were there. But you know the BS that we believe? You know what the world says? Right now, the conventional modern advice is to not let anyone come visit you for at least the first 2 weeks. Anyone, not even the grandparents, so that you and your newborn can have family time. What a load of BS. Because Jesus asked, "Who is my mother? Who are my brothers?" And then he pointed to his disciples and said, "Look, these are my mother and brothers. Anyone who does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." So I want to come back to our 2 questions we should be asking ourselves. The first is why? So, I don't want anyone visiting for the first 2 weeks. Why? So we can just have family time. Do I look like the world or do I look like God? Because Jesus would say, this is our family. Not the nuclear family. This is our family. And so when you have a kid, if you have a kid, resist the temptation to retreat to the nuclear family. And when your friends have kids, don't let them be selfish like that. Because what's better for the kid? That they have 2 parents looking out for them? Or they have dozens and dozens of spiritual uncles and aunties and even other spiritual mothers and fathers looking out for them? So many people brought us food. So many people helped us take care of William. So many people held him and played with him. I mean, I think he loves Brandon more than he loves us. He just wants to be held by Brandon all the time. So don't believe the BS of the inward-focused nuclear family. All right, have visitors, have people over on day 1 and day 10,000. Don't stop having people be a part of your kids' lives beyond babyhood. Don't hog your children, all right? That's not for their good. That's just your selfishness. There's a family at church that Mandy's very close to, and she takes care of their kids all the time. And I remember one time they were going to go to the Dallas Zoo Lights, and Mandy invited me. And I got to experience what it was like to be around kids and take care of them at the zoo. And that was a very formative experience in being with kids. So again, don't get sucked into the nuclear family. Have people over consistently, because when you grow as a disciple, you grow as a parent. All right, now, were we tired the first few months of having William? Absolutely. I'm not saying this is easy. All right, was it hard to host people? Yes. But does being tired count as an excuse to be selfish? Never. And was it totally worth it, getting to see my friends love my baby? Absolutely. But something I didn't know before becoming a dad, like everyone says, oh, you'll be so tired, you're going to lose sleep. I'm like, okay, but I didn't really understand what they meant. So I'm going to tell you, babies are on 3-hour feeding cycles, all right? So when they wake up, you feed them. When they're done feeding, you put them down to sleep. And then at 3 hours, if they haven't already woken up, you wake them up to feed them again, because their stomachs are so small and they weigh so little that they need to constantly be eating to gain weight and be able to sleep longer later in life. Now, you heard me say 3 hours. This is not 3 hours between them going to sleep and waking up. This is 3 hours between waking up and waking up. So let me paint you my first few months of having William. William wakes up at 9 a.m., all right? We feed him. Feeding takes about an hour, all right, of pumping, getting the milk. He doesn't drink very fast. He's very tiny. All right, now it's 10 a.m. Now we've got to rock him, soothe him to sleep, put him down into his bassinet. A bassinet is like a smaller crib, all right? put him into his bassinet. Now it's about 10:30. Now we've got to wash the pump parts, the bottle, so that there's no bacteria and we can use it later. Now it's maybe about 10:45 or 11. So if I go to sleep immediately, I have 1 hour before I need to wake up again and we need to feed him. 9 a.m., noon, 3, 6, 9 p.m., midnight, 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 9 a.m., over and over and over again. This is a baby, guys. Now you think that you can be selfish and be a parent? No. But which leads us to the next piece of BS, is that it's okay to be selfish when you just had a kid. That it's okay to be selfish when you just had a kid. And what's our first question? Why? Why? Because I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm depressed. What's the second question? Do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? Well, I think of when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, preparing to die on a cross. And he told his disciples, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." Overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. And what does he do next? He prays, and then he does God's will. Because he carries his cross, and he sacrifices his life for us. Between that and losing sleep and letting people I love come and see my baby, I know which cross I'd rather bear. Tiredness is never an excuse to be selfish. So when I grow as a disciple, I grow as a parent. Now, it's not just a newborn, all right? Tiredness doesn't evaporate when your kid gets older. It just takes new forms. I am getting much better sleep now. That's nice. But yeah, tiredness just takes new forms, but it's never an excuse to be selfish. Now, there's an offshoot of this, all right? We make selfish decisions, and we pretend they're selfless because we blame the baby. Oh, I can't come to church because, it's the baby's nap time. I'm being selfless for the baby. It's no. No, you're not. That's not even what's best for the baby, probably. It's oh, I can't come to your thing, or I've got to leave early because the baby. It's no, you just want to leave early. Just admit it. Be honest. Don't lie. You just want to be selfish. It's, oh, we got to move, to this 2,500 square foot house out, an hour and a half away because the kids need more space. It's no, you just want a big house. That's it. That's all it is. And then we as their friends let them use their kids as an excuse because, gosh, that's the trump card. The kids. You gotta do what's best for the kids. But we don't actually ask, why is that best for the kids? Why? When I was in college, I went home to visit my parents. And so a little bit about my parents. My dad, he's an engineer. They live in California. He's an engineer. I would say he's pretty Americanized now. He's been working here for over 30 years. But my mom doesn't really know English very well. She's gotten by with living in Asian communities and finding Asian communities and churches all of our lives. So there's just a lot about our American culture and our society that we, as her American children, need to explain to her. So yeah, if we're going to Wendy's, of course I'm ordering at the counter. And if we've got to deal with appointments and school stuff, yeah, I'm gonna deal with it. And if I'm in high school and I'm tardy, it's okay, Mom, I got this. I'll just write the tardy slip and I'll forge your signature and I'll just give it to them. Don't worry about it, right? Things like that. So I'm visiting home. I'm with my parents and we're at the grocery store and we're in the rice section because, well, my family eats rice. And just like every grocery store you've ever been in, underneath each product is a price sticker, right? Because you got to know what you're buying and how much it is. But then, next to this price sticker is a very bright pink price sticker with the letters WIC in all caps, WIC. And I've never noticed this before, and so I say out loud, "What is this?" And then my mom responds, "That's the food stamp price." And then my jaw drops because one, how did I not know this before? And two, how does my mom know this and I don't? So I ask her in a very shocked, like so shocked, it comes off as rude tone, "How do you know this?" And she says, "Because we were on food stamps when you were a kid." And then my jaw drops because one, how did I not know this before? And two, how does my mom say this so nonchalantly? Well, in college, I learned that we were poor when I was a kid. And I just never knew. I didn't know we lived in a subsidized apartment. I didn't know my clothes were hand-me-downs. I didn't know my toys were mostly donations. I didn't know we lived in a small place. I didn't know our cars were worse than other people's. All I knew was that my parents loved me. And they showed it constantly by taking care of me, by disciplining me, by spending time with me, even when it wasn't a lot. It wasn't through the brand name of clothes that my life, that I felt their love, or the size of the apartment or house. It wasn't the quality of the education I was receiving. It was their consistent care and love for me. So what's the BS we believe? That my kids need the nice clothes, the nice house, the nice things that come with money in order to be raised right and happy. But why? Well, because they need the space, right? They need the big house. They need the space. They need the self-esteem and, avoiding bullying because they don't have nice clothes or name brand clothes. Or they need the security and the flexible options that come in life with money. But do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? Because Jesus says, "Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Paul says that three things remain: faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these things is love. So are we teaching our kids to seek money or to seek God? Because money doesn't solve all problems. Money doesn't raise good kids. In fact, it often spoils them. The best schools may not provide your kid with the best experience. There's a reason why the nicest, richest Plano Senior High has the biggest drug problem. So are we teaching our kids to seek money or seek God? And so when I ask these questions of myself, I grow as a disciple. And when I grow as a disciple, I grow as a parent. Because when we teach our kids to seek money, we value certain careers, right? What's the holy trinity of careers? Doctor, engineer, lawyer. Doctor, engineer, lawyer. How many of us are training to be those things? I mean, most of us. So, many of your parents prayed for you to study these things, and you are answering their prayers. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with pursuing those careers. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. But again, why? Why? Because often I think it shows what we value most of all: safety and security. Making the safe choice so that I might not suffer, that my child might not suffer. Now, that doesn't mean making risky career choices is better. It's not about like, oh, now I just need to pick like the fun career or no. But it's about asking yourself why. Why am I choosing this? And do I look more like the world or like God? All right, but it's not this concern, this high prioritization of safety isn't just about career choices and money. It's all the choices that our society is trying to force feed us about our children. It's about having the best car seat so that, you got to spend $600 instead of $100 for that extra 0.00001% chance that it might do a little bit more something for your kid. And if you don't, you're a bad parent, right? You got to get the mom SUV because, again, these car accidents, man, like they're crazy. You got a 0.0001%, every 0.0001% chance. If you don't go for that, you're a bad parent. Bad parent, all right? That's what society's telling you. You're a bad parent. You got to breastfeed. You can't feed your kid formula. You're a bad parent. You got to have Life 360 for your children. You got to keep track of them all the time. Make sure they're doing only what you want them to do, or else you're a bad parent. Don't let your kids out late. Don't let them out at all. Don't let them walk outside alone. Don't leave them alone at your house. Always be with your kid, or else you're a bad parent. We care so much about safety that it makes you wonder, is a successful kid just an alive kid? Is a successful kid just an alive kid? Or is a successful kid one who loves God and people? Because I don't know if those rules are going to produce the latter. So we have to ask again, why? Why? So my kid will be safe. But do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? Because Jesus says, in this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. So perhaps God values other things over safety. In fact, I know he does, because he sent Moses to Pharaoh, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego chose the fiery furnace instead of bowing down to something other than God. Daniel got thrown in the lion's den. God has called people to be homeless, to stand up to kings and courts. So maybe God values who you are and who you're becoming a whole lot more than just keeping you alive. Now, that doesn't mean go hog wild and like, all right, safety's out the window, just do whatever. I'm just saying maybe safety is not the top of the totem pole. Maybe it's somewhere a little lower. All right, there's so many things I could talk about with raising kids. But I think I chose these principles because I think it not only applies to raising kids, it also applies to raising yourself, right? Include community. Don't be selfish. Don't put your hope in money. Don't value safety over godliness. Because being a parent is not a separate set of rules. It's not a new kind of life. It's a continuation of your life as a disciple. If you choose to be a disciple now, if you grow as a disciple now, you will grow as a parent. You are raising your kids right now. Who you are and how you're striving to grow will determine who you are as a mother or a father. You don't get to flip a switch suddenly when your baby is born and be like, all right, now I'm going to be a good parent. It's like, no, you decide now to be a good parent so that by the time you do have a child, you already are a good parent. So be humble, continue to grow as a disciple. Take advice, get advice, all right? Talk to people, and not just people with kids, right? If being a parent is a continuation of being a disciple, talk to people who are good disciples, all right? other than my parents, there's one other person who has influenced the most who I am as a dad, and that is Brandon. I've met with Brandon for, I've met with Brandon for over a decade. And Brandon doesn't have children of his own, but that doesn't mean he hasn't taught me how to be a dad, how to think through how I'm raising William. It's like who taught me and encouraged me and pushed me on and had grace for me to really grab hold of this value of community. You know, when I got married to Emily, I had an open invite wedding that a lot of you came to. But I was just learning from what I'd seen Brandon do before. It was that value of community instilled in me that caused me to insist that many of you come see baby William, days after he was born. I didn't just wake up one day and care. It was years of discipleship, being encouraged to follow Jesus closer and closer. Because Jesus also had no children of his own, but he has taught us how to be parents like God. It's not just people with kids who can dole out advice. It's disciples who get to. Who is following Jesus closely? If I can grow as a disciple, then I can grow as a parent. All right, worship team, you guys can come back up. So now, I'm not a perfect dad. Like, none of this was to be like, all right, do it exactly like me, and you too will be perfect. This is not some self-help like seminar. This is not TED Talk. This is to help you think through how am I going to raise my kids? Not what exactly am I going to do, but that you might begin to be asking those questions. I've only gotten through 10 months of fatherhood, all right? That's a pretty low bar right now. There's a lot more to come. I know I already get frustrated and annoyed sometimes. I already get distracted, but I'm on my phone way too much, just like everybody. Like, I didn't grow as a disciple in my phone usage quite early enough, so I'm working on it now. And there's probably plenty of BS that I've swallowed that I don't even know. There's going to be a lot of ways that I'm going to mess up in raising William. But I think as a parent, as a disciple of Jesus, I'm going to make purposeful decisions. I'm going to ask myself why, and then ask myself, do I look like the world or do I look like Jesus? Because when I grow as a disciple, I'll grow as a parent. I'm going to pray. God, we thank you so much for being our perfect Father, for filling in the gaps that our parents may have left, for loving us way before we even knew of you, way before we had an opportunity to love you back. I pray that you would be preparing us. I know that parenthood could be in the far future for some of us, but you would be growing us, preparing us every single day so that we could show love to one another, to our kids, to each other's kids, that we could be a community that builds strong disciples who love this world the way that you love it. So we trust you. We trust in your purposes and your plans for us. We love you so much, but we know that you love us even more. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.